Hersh,
We are live?
we are live. Live and kicking actually. दोनों बिजी हैं फोन पे.
हाँ.
नहीं सर. I think.
क्या देख रहे हो तुम आजकल? मीम देख रहे हो?
Meme. Yes, that's what I'm looking at and looking forward to as well.
आज पूरा दिन हम वही देखेंगे ना.
हाँ. वही चलेगा.
But anyways, markets are flat as expected because it's supposed to be a well precision strike and only to impact the I think terror installations within Pakistan and within Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir basically. So I think it's pretty much measured and mature way of market reacting. It's a flat market today. Nifty is almost flat. Nifty IT is slightly positive, but what we
A recovery from the lows is good.
Yeah, especially for the broader markets.
Yeah.
Small cap and mid cap, they were lower. They opened lower, and yesterday also they were down nearly 2% or so. So
Yes.
So there is some kind of buying which is coming back into the market, and I think that's something to cheer about because there is funds and institutions which are buying. It's been a volatile day so far, especially till the briefing by the MEA at 10:30, and after the briefing, it seems very clear that it's a precision strike without impacting any of the civilian population or military installations of Pakistan. The only I think nervousness which is there still is that is there going to be a counter reaction to this, because they still even though we are very clearly claiming that we have been careful in non-escalatory measures, but it seems there would be a domestic audience in Pakistan which will have to be reacted to. Right?
No, and they're being fed sharply incorrect information. I must say that they've been fed information saying that Srinagar airport has been bombed, that
no, all those are wrong actually. Nothing
there has been heavy casualties
to sum it up actually
posts on the LOC.
This time we haven't even crossed the LOC or the crossed over to the Pakistani airbase. We have used sophisticated weapons to make sure that these are targeted and with coordinates which have been as per the briefing. Intelligence people have confirmed that these were the terror attacks and non-terror based terror launch pads, all of them. Best thing is that it's not just to the Pulwama, Pahalgam thing. In the last 6 months, whenever the terror attacks have happened, and from wherever the launch pad or the base was, all those bases have been attacked in one go. It's a matter of 25 minutes. Where they have hit around 24 missiles into all those, including Bahawalpur, which is supposed to be the headquarters of Jaish-e-Mohammed, which is there. So
I'm just trying to analyze the Pakistani reaction here, because that will determine where this situation goes now. It seems from the Indian side, the response at the moment seems complete.
So
at least for the moment.
Normally, there are escalation metrics which are there in every hierarchy in the defense hierarchy, especially when you're undertaking such kind of stuff on a day-to-day basis. When you see that there's cross firing happening across the LOC, you have certain metrics where you will only use the small arms against them. When you're taking such a big step like a surgical, it's almost like a precision strike, surgical strike, impacting only those points and those facilities where we think that there is an ample evidence of being a terror camp or a launch pad. There is always a escalation metrics in that. Now the question is that is Pakistan ready to escalate it to the second level? Because I think some of the reports are saying that this was just phase 1. Phase 2 comes into place only if there is an escalation which comes in, counter escalation which comes in from Pakistan at this point in time, and that it seems a little lower at this point in time, because there is a constant, there's a global pressure on them to be a little soft, because none of the military or economic or public institutions or facilities have been impacted. So So yeah, so that's something
So-
which is there.
So Pakistani media coming out and saying that 3 or 5 of our, which is the Indian aircraft, have been downed.
Those
That
are
seems
those are
incorrect.
false.
That's been
That's
completely
That's
quashed.
false because that
So-
when we haven't crossed over, then there is nothing of that sort.
So not able to understand whether one are they in that rhetoric declaring victory that hey, we've done enough damage on Indian forces and on India, or whether they are saying that this is just the start and we're willing to go the whole hog because we've done all this. We are literally willing to go the whole hog and damage the Indian side is essentially going to be so
But-
basically everything that plays out over the next maybe 12 to 24 hours will hold the key as to where this
That's
goes.
true.
But the question really is, can they actually go to that extent that they might, retaliate the kind of strike that we've done? Because economically, I don't think they would be able to pull off this big a stunt. One thing, plus, like you're saying, the global pressure right now on them will be pretty high. So, I mean, within 12 to 24 hours also, even if they try to, take a calculative move, it's going to be a tough one.
There will be some kind of action which is there, and we are seeing heavy firing which is happening from across the LOC and international border, and that's been responded by the Indian forces in equal measure basically. But I don't think for now, as we speak, I don't know how it's going to play out because we don't know how military establishment of Pakistan is going to react, because half of them must be sitting in London and doing interviews
So
from there.
they don't really care about where Pakistan comes from because it's a very weakened country in any case.
Yeah.
I think where they make their money from in any case is through war.
The very fact that the Pakistani stock exchange or stock markets are down nearly 6% gives away the fact that it is a impactful attempt from India's side. And this time, for once, we have a detailed presentation of all the facilities with photographs before
that
and
was
after.
fabulous. That was a fabulous presentation.
Because there is no doubt in anyone's mind, because that's the kind of presentation which has been done by both the Army and the Air Force.
All this time, what we've been doing, and this is the change from the
19,
earlier era.
It's a learning from 2019.
That if we just share information, nothing really happens. Let's just go out there and do it, and thereafter let's justify it through a press conference. Much better way of doing it.
Yeah.
And with visuals.
And with visuals
I
to
mean,
clearly
that's the-
demonstrate that we've done what we've done.
And luckily for this time, there's a lot of videos which are coming in.
Correct.
Because by last time it could have been it's the camps were isolated, not in the middle of cities or other stuff, and so people could have said, oh, you bombed some of the mountains and went away, which was again proven wrong. But point is that this time, because these were specific in city centers and crowded areas, and with precision which has been done, it's been documented in videos which are coming into in social media platforms, which is there. So that's there is no it's an undeniable thing. It happened in night, and there was an element of surprise which came in because Pakistan, it seems, was looking at either a ground escalation or a aerial escalation, which is there, but it came through a third front, which is you're using technology and drones to do that, which also brings in focus a lot of defense companies now who are doing in drones, right? Because that now becomes the next cutting edge for people. You don't need to cross over to airspaces and do it. So,
Sure.
So defense stocks are up. As we speak, many of the defense companies which are providing all those facilities, and a lot of them, are in the startup space, which are contributing in some way. So they're doing that. So
The other big thing, sir, and we'll shift tack, was the India-UK FTA.
Yes.
I think
Which
the
is-
market
Last
movement is-
evening was a surprise because we were thinking that it's going to be a long drawn process, and we've been talking about it before the elections, Indian elections, then the UK elections came into being, and then finally it was signed, right? So from that point of view,
Since 3 years.
so yeah,
It's been
yeah, I mean
in the negotiation phase.
the conversations are always about scotch and whiskey, but it's much more than that actually.
It's
But
also about
halved.
Land Rover.
So from 150% to 75%, and probably it'll go down to 40% in terms
To
of
10% also, no? To 10%?
40% is
over a
what,
period of 10 years.
yeah,
10 years, right?
So the
yeah,
kind of premium whiskey or scotch which India is importing from there is something that
which
will
is
get
I
cheaper.
think Diageo and
Diageo. Correct,
United
Diageo.
Spirits, which is
Yes.
doing that.
Correct.
So yeah, so for whiskey and single malt lovers, prices are going to come down. But more than that, IT companies are going to benefit
Services
because
are going to get cheaper.
yeah, because 14% of their of Indian IT revenues come from the UK market. So some
IT, pharma, textiles.
pharma,
Textiles, leather,
textiles, especially because
footwear.
we had a disadvantage with respect to Bangladesh.
Bangladesh,
Now that moves out. It's a double whammy for Bangladesh because we are going, if the India US happens, then we have a better rate with with US for textiles there as well, and in UK. So that improves a lot of stuff for textiles in that sense.
And I think the market movers today also, most of them are textiles. You have KPR Mills, Indocount, Vardhaman Textiles, all of these moving positively on the back of that.
Yeah.
Leather, and auto and auto components also. We
Motherson Sumi wiring and the like.
Endurance Tech.
Uno
doing
Minda.
well trade today. Uno Minda, yes.
So just some of the names. I mean, we're just throwing names, but those are broadly beneficiaries of the India-UK FTA. And of course, the quantum, everyone we'll have to really dig in and analyze. With
See, it's a $13 billion, right? Means that's a kind of overall which the trade
yeah, but
which we are
within
talking
each
about.
company, within each company, what's the component, etc.
So overall, the deal is expected to increase bilateral trade by around 25 billion euros is what the rough figure is right now. So that's the rough figure. But in terms of INR,
so it's $13 billion, and the total thing is what you call, if I'm not sure, UK share is around $3 billion out of it. So a lot of it's a gain for UK because a lot of some of the companies will be able to import. Tata Motors, TVS has Norton, which can be brought into the country at a lower rate, which is there. Tata Motors JLR can come in because come into. What is important is I think there are a couple of things which is happening in the UK trade. It's still not clear about the India-UK bilateral investment treaty, which we're talking about. The tax savings which can come in from there. The second thing is is little more clarity is required on the social security, expenses which Indian companies have to bear for short-term workers there. So that would come as a relief. So that's some regulatory costs coming in for them. And the third being the fact that so the European carbon tax, something which they've been talking about, and that prevents many of the companies who are supplying to UK or the European market need to be in UK for that. That also brings in a little bit of ease of business for them. One of the reasons why Tata's had to set up a battery factory, Agratas, which is in UK and in Gujarat, was that reason that you couldn't export from India to the UK market or from UK, and from UK you have to do it to the European market. So it's a very big deal which is now under the radar because of the kind of geopolitical things happening. But as it unfolds, it brings in much more clarity of Indian trade which comes in. And that also becomes a base for the India-US bilateral treaty which goes forward.
Correct. So keep your eye out on all of those deals because those will very, very likely continue to impact specific stocks and sectors. So something to keep our eye out on. So India-UK and of course the India-Pakistan negative sentiment, India-UK positive sentiment impacting markets today. But outside of that, we had a few numbers also worth discussing. One was a Paytm, one was a BSE.
How's Paytm? Means it was pretty much in line, right? But still,
I think top line was a bit of a miss.
They're not able to get that moat in place.
moat in place to pata nahi, but basically their top line was slightly lower than the consensus estimate. Where they are where they're doing well is with regard to loan disbursals, and this is good news for them, because it seems that there is good interest wherever they are giving loans with default loss guarantee, which is DLG. So wherever they are giving loans with default loss guarantees, they are relatively doing better.
What was it actually?
Sorry?
What percentage was it? 2% or 4%?
No, now it's a very large percentage. 50 to 60% of their loans now disbursed are with a default loss guarantee.
How much is the guarantee they're giving?
They are giving a 5% guarantee.
Right? Yeah.
This is what. So this they've not disclosed in this quarter.
Yeah.
They had disclosed it maybe 2 or 3 quarters ago when they had started this default loss guarantee piece. And the default loss guarantee loans that they give has ended up ensuring that their fees that they collect on the loans has gone up by 2% on an absolute basis. So earlier it was, I believe around 3.5%. Now they are doing 5.5%. So it's also helped them rake in a little bit more revenue per loan that they disburse. So their take rates have gone up on the back of that. But that is something that they're doing, which has helped the numbers. But more importantly, it's a lot of cost control measures that they've undertaken. With regard to transaction processing costs have come down.
Yeah.
Sorry, and other expenses have also come down.
UPI.
So and then there is this whole MDR argument where they are taking a positive stand that eventually.
I don't think that was going to happen.
So, I mean, the consensus view still seems to be that it's difficult, that the government.
Yeah, I mean, the moment it happens,
But if it happens, it's big for Paytm.
Yes, but the moment it happens, it shifts back the digital money back into physical money in the economy, and the government doesn't want that to happen, right? The success of UPI has been because it's zero cost transaction. It increases a float for all those companies, and through that float they may be able to get some kind of temporary interest which is there in the books, but it will not lead to a significant amount which is there. So it's a float increase which is there, right?
MDR is basically merchant discount rate, which is essentially a fee on the UPI transactions that you do. And if that were to happen, then merchants like Paytm, will receive a fee for enabling the transaction.
It can be as high as 2.5%.
Like which is what credit cards
do, right?
Get, and it can be as low as maybe 10 bips. If at all this were to go through, it will be roughly 10 to 15 basis points.
But Mahima today is telling us, given the kind of geopolitics which is happening, what are the sectors and stocks you should be watching out for?
Right. So, absolutely. And just to give that context as to how markets previously have also performed जब war हुआ है, जब India-Pak conflict especially हुआ है. It's important to see because markets did see a downward movement for a few days in the past few India-Pak conflicts as well, but the markets have bounced back as well. In that context, overall, in terms of how sectors have performed, where sectors that have clearly outperformed include sectors like your cyclicals, so your banks, your metals, your real estate, your capital goods. All of these have generally tend to outperform or at least have upheld their performance and have not lagged. But something that have lagged during these wars is your defensives, your FMCG, your IT. These two sectors, as per an Elara report, have lagged. But again, it's very interesting to see how overall a consumer behavior takes place during these war times, and how sectors might get impacted. There's tourism. So, for example, because this has happened, a lot of airlines have come out and said that flights will not be operational right now from Srinagar or parts around that. Flights are one thing that will get impacted. So Indigo might see a slight impact going ahead for a few days at least. In terms of hotel chains, again, because tourism will go down, hotel bookings will go down, and that might get impacted. So your ITC hotels, your IHCL, etc. might get a little impacted.
Especially the northern and the border states,
correct.
basically, and we are entering into a holiday season, right?
Yes.
Right.
So Indigo and Air India have already spoken about the fact that there will be some disruptions to the flights, which is there. So travel and tourism, yes, it is going to be impacted. Defense, I'm not so sure how it's going to play out, but my point is that the short term effect would be positive on some of the companies like Bharat Forge, BDL, BEL, and couple of more companies like Mishra Dhatu, all those companies who are supplying weaponry and other stuff, including L&T will have some kind of positive thing because of the kind of demand that some of the short term, because they make Pinaka systems which is there. So that is from a defense point of view which is there. But from the FMCG end, how does it look?
Right. So in terms of FMCG, generally what people tend to do is panic, and probably they'll start stocking up groceries with them. So there's this view and theory that if people start stocking up, there will be a slight uptick in terms of volumes and sales for all of these FMCG staple companies. Plus, there might be an uptick seen in your delivery companies as well. So your Zomato and Swiggy might benefit from that, because people would want to order groceries, not go out and buy them, just order them online and stock. So this is one thing, and consumer discretionary is something that might get impacted because people will not tend to right now, buy a watch or maybe buy jewelry right now. So auto companies also might. So slowdown in discretionary spending is something that could be witnessed.
Yeah, I think the month of May is going to be little, how do you call it, a little wobbly in that sense for me. Because people will be cautious in putting in investments into discretionary, as she said. There would be some kind of stocking which happens, but in the Indian households, we all do stocking in the first 10 days of the month, because that's how the household works, right? They buy the ration for the first month of it. So that stock, whether it's going to be more than that, it's something to do. But as of now, there's no reason to stock as you speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah, people will also stock up money. And therefore you might well see deposits take a positive possible move.
Normally, wouldn't they withdraw cash and keep it in hand?
Either way, but likely more deposits.
That's the interesting thing, right? Means 2019 and now 5 years have gone, right? In 5 years, we've seen digital payments doing a lot of stuff,
Correct.
right?
Which is why you're okay with keeping it in the bank.
Yeah, and using the digital, so your UPIs and others may see a lot
so
of.
You might well see a lesser amount of money enter
but
markets.
Will it lead to a higher card spend?
Right now, difficult to say. Frankly, this money piece also difficult to say. It just struck me that if you are stocking up on staples, then you should ideally keep cash in hand as well, which is technically these days cash in the bank. So
yeah, you have digital payment and
yes, maybe there is a cohort.
The QR code has made life easier for you. Don't have to stock it anymore.
Exactly. So maybe there's a cohort of customers which would say, hey, I'll keep some amount of cash rather than deploy it either in markets or elsewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one way to look at it as well.
I mean, that's what guests have been telling, throughout today in the shows, that if at all a dip takes place, I think it's just a buying opportunity and nothing else.
Oh, yes, that
I
I
mean,
believe. And we've said this a couple of times now in the last 2 weeks that there's plenty of money waiting on the sidelines to get deployed in dips, and so I mean, even if a dip were to come, likely looking temporary, at least at this point. So maybe
even
you want
in
to wait
mutual
and watch for
funds,
that.
the data is interesting, because yesterday I was seeing top 5 small cap mutual funds by AUM, and roughly all of those top 5 have anywhere between 15 to 20% right now lying in their other category, which is probably cash. So even mutual funds are sitting on cash, which means there will be buying going forward, and there are a lot of macro factors which are also in favor of buying.
Sure,
actually,
there is no doubt.
April 15 since FI has been buying since April 15 and it's for almost 14
14
trading days. the market as a whole has gained nearly 11 lakh crores in market cap, and a large part of them is coming from the large cap and then followed by mid.
Yes.
We haven't seen much of a small
cap.
and micros contributing much there. So a large portion of this money, 44,000 crores, which have come in the last 14 days or 15 days, whatever it is, has gone into the large caps, especially financial services and other sectors which is there. So that's something interesting.
So
Especially financial services.
Yeah.
We've
Yes.
seen HDFC, Kotak, SBI, ICICI see very strong flows in that sense. From whatever numbers I've read, in any case they are FII darlings. So in any case, in terms of holdings, they have the FIs have a lion's share in some of these names. Also a Reliance, 15% is what FIs hold in a Reliance. So that's the other one. I mean, we don't talk enough, but because the free float of Reliance is slightly smaller than some of these other names, especially banks, you're therefore sometimes you discount Reliance a bit, but yes, that's the other one.
So on those lines only, Roshan is asking this question. Everyone's shouting large caps, but isn't it better to buy quality small or mid caps which have barely fallen or corrected 30 to 40%, but still fundamentally great and growing fast? What's your view?
Large cap?
No, he's saying everybody's
Large cap.
shouting large cap, but isn't it better if you invest in a better quality mid cap?
That's
or
true,
small
right?
cap?
But we've seen some bit of run up happening in small caps after they've fallen 40-50%. So there has been a buying which has happened there, right? Even today, the recovery which is happening in the small and mid cap space after yesterday's 2% fall is something some of buying which is happening there. So yes.
We're net positive for the week on small and mid cap. Net positive for the week. So last 3 days.
Yeah. I mean, if you do your research properly and do maybe like we always say, look at the sector and take exposure in top 2 or 3 companies of that sector based on your research and what you find. Similarly, you can do with mid cap and small cap, and break it down into sectors within the mid cap and small cap, and look at the top 2 or 3 companies and then do a research of how the earnings for Q4 have been, because most of them have come out with their earnings, and based on that you can take a call going forward which ones to invest. That's something which is interesting in some way, right?
Absolutely. So bottom up is always the way to play it, and corrections are always an opportunity. When I was speaking to Firoz Aziz a few days back, one method which he follows, and he's spoken about that on our show. What he said is, you look at the 10 biggest loss-making days on the index in the last 1 year, and pick out from the small cap 250 index, pick out the stocks which have gained on those days, on all of those days. And he said that there are only 7 stocks which do that. And I'll pull out that data. In fact, I have that data with me as well.
We should put out something in the India
I
market.
have looked at it, and I'll just pull that out. And he said that those stocks will benefit disproportionately when markets bounce back.
No, we are talking about the money where it's going.
And I'll just quickly...
And the last fortnight, April 16 to April 30, nearly 38,000 crores came in. 22,000 or 23,000 went into financial services. So it's entirely financial services which has taken away the money. IT saw 13 or nearly 1,400 crores of outflows. Fast moving saw inflow of 2,300 crores. Consumer services nearly 2,000 crores. So yes, capital goods was just 3,000 odd crores, but a bulk of that has gone into $2.6 billion has gone into financial services.
I'm not surprised, sir, frankly. So
and so so the run up which we are talking about, right, nearly 11 lakh crores which happened.
Yes,
a bulk of that went into the top 4 or 5 banks and NBFCs which is there. But there are a lot of questions which have come in.
And since we're talking about the BFSI space, it's all about the fun. Is asking this question: main metrics to analyze good management in banking sectors. We've seen a lot of
good management.
So listen to commentary quarter after quarter. See what the bank is delivering. Ask and there are always, every con call will have very, very strong and relevant questions focus on the question and focus on the answer of the management, and you'll know whether the management is trying to shirk the answer, which is to try and dodge the answer, or whether they are actually answering the question in a pointed fashion. And good managements will give you a yes, no, or can't say. They will give you that answer, and they will not sidestep and try to take the conversation in a different direction. And you'll see that that difference. So look at the commentary, look at the delivery, and check whether the yes, no, or can't say answer is coming. That's the best way to judge the caliber of management.
Roshan has one question on CDSL and I think CUB, City Union Bank.
Yeah.
Exit and move capital somewhere else or continue holding. 12 months perspective. Also views on SBI share price movement for the next 12 months. Advisable to hold both SBI, ICICI and CUB, or can exit, change banking allocation in some way.
This is like literally portfolio advice. But what I will do, sorry, I missed his name. Roshan, what I will do is I will urge you to look at the shareholding pattern of CDSL, and you'll see an interesting trend. FII holding is reducing, DII holding is reducing, and retail investor holding is increasing. And whenever that happens, you can say or suggest that smart money is beginning to move out of the stock. So maybe look at a trend like that. I saw that in a CDSL, I noticed it, and maybe you can look at it and see if that hypothesis fits your bill. Then maybe it's an indication.
Also the fact that CDSL numbers were not so encouraging.
And so frankly, okay, so not encouraging for sure, but it's also, you have to give it to them that the fact that there has been headwind from a regulatory perspective on some
I was
of these
speaking to
infrastructure companies.
One of the leading mutual fund guys who used to manage securities as well at some point in time, and he was telling me that the thing to watch out for is number of active demat accounts.
Yeah.
And that number of active demat account is falling. So if the active demat accounts are falling, then the revenues are going to hit. You're going to see the hit on your transaction charges and everything which you do. And that's something to watch out for. Now, active demat accounts, not many disclose, but these guys get it. So I don't know how they get it, but they watch that very closely. So what he said is right. Smart money is moving out, and retailers are getting into it. It's nothing to say that the capital markets segment will not grow. It will grow multifold. But the point is that the market has to revive. We need to get more participation in. And that's something which is going to drive the revenues and profitability for many of the capital markets intermediaries. At this point in time, it seems that the AMCs and the wealth managers are doing much better than exchanges.
Yes,
and except for a BSE, which came out with
AMC
numbers
is doing better than
which surprisingly double of profits which happened for BSE. But even exchanges are facing the issue. The one of the reasons why BSE is up is that the market share is going up. That's what they're saying.
So the stock is down 30%.
You're talking about
CDSL year to date. So while I'm saying that some of the smart money has moved out, you also want to keep your eye out on the fact that you won't get time for when the smart money comes back as well. So all we're saying is, look at valuation, look at your hypothesis. It's a long-term play for sure, yes, but at the same time, you start watching these trends that smart money starts to move out. Is that sustaining? Is that not sustaining? What exactly is happening? How are valuations looking? What are relative valuations looking like? And then make your call and make your bet based on what timeline and what kind of investment thesis you have, and thereafter make the call. We're just kind of giving you data points.
Yes.
That
Jaydev, we have spoken about India, UK FTA. Suraj, we have spoken about textiles to benefit.
You want to talk about this City Union Bank, etc. He's asked for too many stocks.
Stocks. Maybe you can pick up in India Market Close with one of the guests.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll ask a general banking sector question with the guest on India Market Close. So why don't you join us? We've got two very interesting guests. We have Abhay Agarwal today. We also have Nilesh Shah of Kotak who will join us. Obviously, the larger theme being UK FTA and the India-Pakistan. I'm more skewed towards UK FTA, frankly, than India Pakistan, because nobody knows where that's going, right? But but we'll quiz them on some of these aspects.
I think Kalyan is asking why market is ignoring leather and packaging. There's not many companies there.
They're very small.
Small
So I was
companies
just
in
checking
that,
Mirza International and Bharti
yeah.
International. These companies are running, but they're very small in terms
they
of
will
their
benefit
market
in
cap.
some way, but they're small companies. I don't know whether
And how much of an export,
Yeah.
how much of a dent does this
Yeah,
make?
exactly.
Not really sure. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Shrikar, Snyder Electric, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I know you've been asking this question for last couple of days, so we'll speak about Snyder tomorrow.
Okay.
So today we wrap it up actually.
Yeah, we stretch.
With fingers crossed that there's no escalation.
There's
Yeah,
no
I mean,
yes. And everybody remains safe.
Yes, and India comes out better, both politically as well as in the way in which this skirmish has played out. So let's hope for that. Thank you.
पाकिस्तान देखने में मजा आ रहा है आपको
So,